Now we are. Awesome. We are live. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm excited. We've got a really great, we're going to spend about 30 minutes. We might go over, we might not. There's going to be a lot of great content. But I am joined by Carl Prizzi, John Mercant, and Megan Winter. And we're here to talk about how to choose the right AI model for your success. There is obviously an incredible amount of talk around AI. For us specifically, that's AI related to search and on-site search. And we're going to get into a bit of that. But the reason I invited this panel together is because they are boots on the ground. They are literally working with customers on solving these issues in their business and making a difference. I mean, and that is truly the driver here, is that we are literally talking to customers about the ROI, about the increased productivity and things like that. And so this series is really meant to go there, right? To go to the practical application of this, right? We don't want to just talk about the fun jargon around this. We want to talk about how this is impacting business. So really quickly, let's just do a quick round of, we'll start with Carl and just go around and say hi, and then we'll jump in.
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Prizzi. I head up the revenue team here at HawkSearch. So that's our direct sales and customer success. Certainly looking forward to our fireside chat here today. I'm out of New York, and it's actually freezing cold here. So the thought of a fireside is is nice. I wish we were sitting by a fire right now. But anyway, I'm also here with John in New York. So I'll pass the baton over to John.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Hi, everyone. John Mercant. I run products and strategy. I did have my coat on just before. I took it off just for the call because this is so formal. But looking forward to the conversation. Thank you. And Megan, I'm going to hand it over to you. There's always something on these types of screen shares. We always face it. So we can see a little bit of you, Megan, in that picture right there. But unfortunately, at least on our side, we're not seeing you, unfortunately.
Turn your lights
hopefully,
on.
Megan, you're still there. Okay, well, I'm sure she'll join. Okay. So why don't we jump in? It's the world we live in.
I thought I heard her. I paused there for a moment.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yep, we can. Yep.
Okay. I'm not touching anything on my end. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the Wisconsin weather here, but high winds, everything. It could be impacting the internet. But excited to be here. I'm on the customer success team here at Bridgeline, and my focus is truly on helping customers drive success with HawkSearch and talking about different strategies and how we can utilize our functionality and tools to make things happen and drive results for them. So really happy to be here and looking forward to sharing some stories.
Awesome. Let's jump in. Like I mentioned, these guys are they're road warriors. They're literally on site. They're on calls every day with customers, looking at all this technology and saying, if we apply this technology and we go through this effort, is the ROI going to be there? So very excited. So let's jump in. You know who HawkSearch is, or hopefully you know who HawkSearch is, right? We do search, product discovery, merchandising, personalization. And now, though, we're here to talk a lot about the AI component and what does that mean. So I'm going to turn it over to John and to talk about how that relates and what's most important when it comes to our Hawk AI.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. And the most important thing is conversion. So that's what drives marketing. That's what drives merchandising. That's what we're all looking for. Obviously, from our point of view, conversion starts with search. So if someone puts in the search term, obviously we want good results so that someone will click on it and convert. Couple of highlights here. Number one, in the B2B space, many 40% of those buyers, when they're on your site, are using the search bar. So it's a super critical aspect. And in general, we just see more and more users moving online to make their searches. So, and Jeremy, if you could go to the next slide here. So if we could add more technology to drive that relevancy, as we were saying before, is what drives the conversion. That's what we're doing. So for years, HawkSearch was mainly focused on keywords. So you're going kind of across time from left to right here. And we're always enhancing it. And there's a number of things with machine learning, et cetera, that we do to improve that keyword value. But at some point, new technologies can help with that relevancy. So the first one that we worked on is Smart Search. That is letting someone upload a picture, for example, to find a result, or describe a picture, or to ask a question. So all of those at a high level, technically speaking, refer to what's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So this is a new tool, another way for someone to search and find that relevant result. And then over time, we realize that yes, the results are relevant and they're helpful, but they can be digested. And that's what we call smart response. So after the results come back from RAG, we then do a further analysis. And I'm sure everyone has noticed this, even if you go to Google or Bing, you put in your search word, you get some results back, but then there's typically another section, another component on the page that starts writing out the answer. And that's using GenAI. Obviously, it's generating the answer based on the results for Smart Search. All of this is in the focus of improving relevancy, which drives that conversion, as we said. So let's spend, Jeremy, if you go to the next one, just a few more minutes, because there's a lot of terms here. And the whole goal of this call is to really break it down for use cases and how people actually are going to benefit from it. And there is an important concept here. It's listed on the bottom, this idea of tailored AI, because one of the challenges that companies and systems often face when they're looking at these types of AI innovations is that when you turn on the AI, all of the human interaction gets turned off. Sometimes you'll hear the term, it's like a black box. So I love it, it's great, but I want to make adjustments to it. And when HawkSearch was in the keyword world, we had a lot of dials that you could make adjustments for merchandising rules, et cetera. And we wanted to make sure that when you add these additional capabilities like concept search, like visual search, and like image search, that all of that is maintained, right? So if you had a boost and bury rule, if you had some other setting inside your merchandising, you want to make sure that that is still reflected. You also want to make sure, and we'll talk about this a little bit as well, is it's great if you have these various options like, oh, you didn't find it with keyword search, why don't you try concept search? Oh, the concept search maybe didn't return a result, why don't you try image search? If you can merge all of that into what we call unified search, it's one search bar. But that one search bar is taking the best results from your keyword, from your concept, and from the image search. And I know it sounds a little weird, image search? Like, I don't understand. What's the difference between visual search and image search? Visual search is when you take a picture with your phone and or upload a picture to find another picture inside your catalog that has the best match. But the model that we use for that also generates text that describes that image. So you could actually, in the search bar, put in a description of an image you're looking for, and you'll return that result. So taking that image search, the concept search, and keyword together is unified. Now, as I said before, so that's everything on RAG. That's the retrieval augmented generation. On the GenAI side, when I get that response back, what can you put in that little response area, similar to like what you see in Google? Well, first is you might just want to summarize the results, because it could be a lot. There could be a lot of information in that result there. And sometimes you might want to just say, here's the answer. I mean, sometimes we return results that may be pointing to, let's say, a PDF file or something like that. That's 10 pages long. So thank you for telling me the answer is in this document, but can't you just tell me what the answer is? So in that case, of course, we send the data back to the GenAI and say, here was the original question. Can you please answer it? Now, there is one other aspect to this, because it shouldn't end, meaning that experience back and forth between the site visitor and the search box, just when a response comes back. Can't you continue the dialogue? Can you turn that search experience into a conversation? So that's what we call smart conversation, and that has a thread back and forth. It maintains that thread so it knows that you're still talking about this specific item. So if you say things like is it warm in the winter? It knows you're still talking about that thread. And then the final thing here with smart facets, I love it because there is a lot of data that our customers have that are broken down by facets that can help answer questions, but you might not have realized it was a facet. So the smart response can look at all the facets in the system and then say, oh, really, they're asking for this information. I'll turn on those facets. And one thing, Jeremy, I know you really enjoy is this idea that these three options here within smart response really addresses guided search, right? So you're guiding the user through this experience as opposed to just presenting the visitor with information. And one other aspect, final thing, and then we'll move on, is smart tools. And you hear more and more about agentic search and agentic AI. And some of it is coming from machine learning as a feature that we always had. But when you start thinking of using these AI features to help current features within the platform, so it's AI supporting things that people do day to day inside of HawkSearch, that means we can rely on that AI to automate. Because I used to have to do it. I would have to log in. I would have to make these adjustments, tweak things, etc. Can't the AI analyze it for me? And just like we were talking about smart response, not necessarily on the website, but in the back end of HawkSearch, can't we leverage those tools to improve productivity of our merchandisers?
Awesome.
So that's it for me. So now let's get into the
Yeah.
details.
Let's get into the use cases, right? You mentioned it, right? Let's get into the use cases, right? That's really where the rubber meets the road. So we're going to hit 3 different use cases here for over the next 20 minutes. We're going to start with the customer experience and some use cases there. Then we're going to move to using AI for better workflows and processes, right? Can we increase automation? And you'll notice that a lot of that stuff is on this slide. So we are kind of jumping in and looking at specific use cases related to these things. And then the last one is we're going to touch on just which embedding model. So basically the first on the left there, like which model works best for you. And like I said, we're going to be actually talking about real world customers here. So Carl, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
And we're going to jump into optimizing customer experience. And I know you've been working with one of our larger customers on this. They've actually made it a priority at a very high level, and they've chosen us to work with on it. And I know it's a really exciting opportunity that you're working on.
It is, and it aligns with everything that John just spoke about there. It's exciting that everything that we're doing on the product front. We just came back from NRF. We were at NRF the last 2 days, and everything that we've seen at the conference and what we're showcasing at the conference, we're all in line there. It's validating everything that we're doing from a product standpoint, everything around the conversational search, use of agentic systems. So it's great to see all that. And John, just kudos to you and the whole product team for driving that innovation, because it's exciting to be able to offer this to our customers. So I want to double click a little bit on the conversational search. That's really an important consideration because it really transforms how users interact with your information, right? Making it more natural, more efficient, more user-friendly, as opposed to just the standard keyword search bar, right? It's more of that guided selling approach and consultative approach that John was mentioning there. So using the conceptual search to understand that phrase or question, the natural language of a user, whether it's a voice search or somebody typing in a question, and then responding to that using GenAI to have that two-way dialogue with the consumer. So we're working right now with a large global consumer electronics company. We power their keyword search today, and we're developing that conversational search experience. It's just a natural fit because we already have all their product details, all their product attributes, the specifications. We have that in our index. So it's just another way of serving that information out to the user in a more natural conversational way, allowing for that two-way dialogue. So as John mentioned, really, it keeps that context of, hey, you ask a question, and then we're just digging in deeper and deeper, leveraging a lot of the facets and the attributes that we have about the particular products, and asking a question of the end user to really narrow that selection. So again, it's getting away from the rigid search queries and just having that more personalized way to access the information within the product catalog. So imagine simply asking the search, on this site that, again, consumer electronics, you can say, like, I'm looking for a reasonable laptop for my college student that's durable, right? So we know college students, they're not really that careful with electronics, and in their dorm room and all that. So the system can interpret that and respond with a prompt like, are you looking for a large format screen? And then you give them more information, and you continue to narrow that selection down. Maybe it asks, how much memory do you require? How many HDMI ports do you need? Right. So the system can continue to respond and ask these questions to narrow that user's selection down. And to the end user, it feels like we're tailoring a product to them But you already have that product sitting in your product catalog. It's just a way to naturally navigate them to the right product that meets their needs and their requirements, right? So from an end user standpoint, for the consumer, they really feel like, oh, wow, this is a tailored product for my needs. But it's really, you're serving up that same product as if you were to do a keyword search, but again, just in a more natural conversational way. So it's exciting that we're rolling this out for again, this customer. It's something we're making available to all customers, that conversational search. Because again, at the end of the day, we have all that data in our index, just another way of serving that up to the end user, a more natural guided selling approach.
Yeah. So in this particular case, this customer, I'm going to put you and John on the spot here. They looked at all this and they said, conversational search, we need a two-way dialogue going, right? Do you guys happen to know were there internal pressures or external pressures, like their customers are saying, hey, we need this. I can do this on Amazon. Why can't I do this on your site? Like, what was the driving factor there of why they're pushing this?
I'd say that, they're definitely an innovative customer. They see the trends, and I think ultimately they have complex products, right? That their products have a lot of specifications. So, instead of, that in the past you have that compare page where you can look at your specs going across and compare multiple laptops, for example, right? Based on different memory and capacity and all that. So it's just a more efficient way, a more natural way to convey that information to the end user.
No, I think that's key for the audience here, right? They need to look at their audience. Is our audience the kind of audience that is going to adopt something like this quickly, right?
Yeah.
We need to look at our products. Are our products really complex, and they're going to need a threaded messaging to ask questions back and forth? I think those are all great things for folks to look at their own business and say, hey, is that something I should look at? Well, let's being cognizant of time here, let's move to the second area here, which is processes and workflows, right? A lot of this, can increase productivity. I know merchandisers are looking at all this technology saying, hey, can you save me time? Megan, I know you've got several customers you're working with around this stuff, and I wanted to see if you could talk about that.
Yeah, hopefully, can you guys give me a quick mic check? Make sure you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. With the camera issues, I didn't want to be talking to myself over here.
And we see your profile picture, Megan. So at least
okay,
a little bit.
We're getting there. Improvements. But yes, I'm working with several clients across, B2B and B2C industries, and even some clients that work.
Oh no! Did you guys lose her?
It's so funny because how many times you're on these types of calls and you have these experiences.
Yeah.
Give her 1 second. Yeah, I can jump in to one as well. And maybe just to go back really quick, Carl, I love hearing you describe the goals of conversational search. And it's so perfect coming from you as a salesperson, because as we all know, our boss says all the time that I want the search bar to be like the best salesperson you have. And
That's
what
right.
does any smart salesperson do? You just keep asking questions. Like, that's the whole goal. Like, tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. You have to listen. And search bars, you don't really think of it like it's listening to you. But if you can have that dialogue back and forth, then that's essentially what's going on. So even though I think when Ari was first talking about we want the search bar to be like, your best salesperson, so to speak, we're really starting to get close to that. I'll just throw one more example there. Jeremy and Megan, if you do come back, just I'll shut up immediately and you can jump back in. But it's the other part of answering that question, because of course, there's two ways to answer a question. And I know Carl would never do this, or anyone on his team. If someone asked a question and he said, oh, here's our price book, why don't you just go through this and get everything that you need? Like, you would never do that. And sometimes when people put in searches, you might have very accurate results. Like, these are definitely the documents that have the answer, or these are definitely the product specs, or these are definitely the pages on the site that answer that question. But as I was saying before, with the way that Google is actually answering it, sometimes I just needed those dimensions because I need some information, and I'm going to take those dimensions, do some analysis, and then I'm going to buy something from you. And that's a big part of what our customers are doing. We kind of call it smart answer. Sometimes it's more related to a longer kind of PDF files, because it's fun when we're testing it. we'll ask a question, and then just to confirm it's okay, we'll open up the document, and then you're like searching through the entire document to try to find the answer. So this little experience, the smart response experience, whether it's a conversation, whether it's just providing the answer, really drives a lot of that value.
Hey, John, that's a great point. I think it ultimately streamlines the end user's experience with your content, whatever you have out there, right? To summarize, it's like, all right, here's the source, here's what I found, here's the document, but here's actually a snippet of information that summarizes what you're looking for to answer the question you have, right? Instead of like looking through that document yourself and trying to find it, really trying to streamline that. And even on the flip side, when it comes to e-commerce, reducing the friction, because during that conversation, right, here's three products that meet your needs, add to cart right from there, instead of like having to go to the product detail page and read more about the product. You already know it's going to meet your needs because it's asked a bunch of questions and it gave you a narrowed result set of like, here's the top 3 products that are relevant to you, right? So it really just shortcuts that whole process of, from a shopping experience, reducing that friction and getting that customer to convert a lot quicker. So yeah,
totally. Yeah. And then just to go back to what I was saying before, Jeremy, and Carl, to your point, is pointing this experience, the smart response, not on the website, which of course is important. You want people to find their results, but can I point it internally to HawkSearch and support the merchandiser? So the same way that you want to support the buyer, they're going through that journey, you're trying to get them to convert. You'd like to provide the same experience for the merchandisers inside of HawkSearch. They're looking at analytics, they're seeing trends, etc., and do the same thing. Like, I analyzed it, it's a trained model, it understands conversion, etc., and then can make those suggestions. So there's a value both on your site visitors, and there's a value for your actual internal team, your merchandisers, the people responsible for making changes to HawkSearch itself.
Yeah, Megan, you there?
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay. I want to quick say what I got, but talking about making merchandisers' lives a bit easier, and I know there's a lot of push industry-wide from both B2B and B2C on using personalization and AI. I believe one of the more recent E360 articles mentioned that 66% of B2B buyers.
Leaving us hanging. We gotta close the loop on that.
We're gonna have to move on. But it's interesting if you look at the slide actually, and you just boil it down to its basics, right? I mean, the 3 main use cases we're talking about here are better search. That's obviously important, right? Supporting the customer in their journey, right? That's all the conversational Gen AI stuff we're talking about. And then the part that Megan was going to talk about here, which is just supporting your internal team, with better merchandising. And what she was going to mention is she's working with customers every day on, their teams are saying, yeah, I love using HawkSearch, but can HawkSearch do something for me that maybe takes me an hour to do every day? Sure. Let's have it generate some content, have it generate some synonyms, have it analyze some reports. So that's what we were going to talk about, and that's what Megan was going to talk about. But let's actually jump into the 3rd use case here.
Well, to close her statement, I just checked.
Okay, sure.
66% of B2B buyers expect a fully personalized experience when buying products online, right? So, and that's really what we're talking about here. That conversational search, it's really a personal relationship that the end user is having with the website. And again, that it's feeling like, all right, it's really the recommendations that it's making is very relevant to what their needs are. Right. So you're creating that personal relationship right there. And also, we can understand the order history and leverage that as well to understand, all right, what have they ordered previously, in addition to all the information they're giving us, and then make those results much more relevant. Right. So
I would like to add just one more thought on the personalization, and this is such a new opportunity in general for where we're going here. So on the one hand, it's like, oh, people like you bought these products, like that kind, or you bought this before, this would be appropriate. So that totally makes sense. But if we could spend one more second on smart response, that dialogue, that interaction, that summarizing or the conversation, etc., the way that conversation occurs. So are you talking to like a product expert, to go back to the computer example, Carl, you were talking about? Are you a concerned parent trying to buy something for your kid? Are you like in IT and you are looking for something for the office kind of thing? Even the way that the response occurs, so the way the words are selected, terms, etc., acronyms, could be tailored, is referred to as a prompt. The prompt could say, I want you to have this summary, I want you to have this conversation with this tone and using, more technical language, for example, for the IT person. So it really creates a personalized experience, not only for the products that match exactly what you would want, but also to communicate in the way that would be most appealing to you.
That's a great point. Tonality is key, depending on that audience who you're talking to. You're talking to a college student versus the parent versus somebody in corporate IT. It's a great point there.
Yeah. And what's interesting is to tie it back to the use case Megan was talking about and gave us that stat on. A product like HawkSearch has tools. You turn the tool on, it can add personalization, but it also takes merchandisers on the back end monitoring all this, right? And that ties it back to, okay, what can we do for that merchandiser? What can we do to make that merchandiser's life easier, or can they automate things? Well, we've only got a few minutes left here, and we do have the last item use case we wanted to talk about is interesting. And it's around embedding models, right? It has to do with, John mentioned it at the very beginning, right? There's keyword search, there's concept search, there's image search, and each one of these is very good in and of itself, right? When you bring them all together, and we'll have a webinar on this soon called Unified Search, that's even more powerful, but that's for another day. Here, I wanted to touch on, and John, I want to pick on you, because I know that there's a lot to say around, testing out concept search, and then image search, and then keyword search, and then seeing how each one of them are doing. And then you might even have to look at the models that you're using to even perfect them more. And I know we've got a great use case with a customer who came to us, who was very sophisticated around that. And it's a really interesting use case.
For sure. And just to get to the specifics there, in this case, number one, it was a different model than our default, which is fine. We host that model. But to your point, Jeremy, this person was an expert, like really knows the space, had been working on it for quite some time, and was doing ongoing training as well. So we do have defaults, and that's our standard when we get started. But if there's a scenario where someone says, look, we're in a specific industry, this model works better for some of the words that people search for, or the way that people understand certain concepts, we could use that model. So that's number one. But then number two, you learn over time. You want to be able to train and adjust that model. Now, this occurs in a couple of other ways that you just need to consider. In some cases, the descriptions, especially in some e-commerce, the descriptions aren't always very long. It could just be really more like specifications as opposed to a description. And in other cases, the images that are associated with those products are just spot on. So we have had scenarios, Jeremy and Carl, as you know, where we said, you know what, we're actually going to be using the image search as a higher boost. We're essentially boosting from each one of these three channels, the keyword, the concept, and the image, because the images are really descriptive, and the text might be, a little bit shorter. So considering what all of these moving parts are, you could adjust the model and say, you know what, I'd like to use more of the image search here. It can play a bigger role. I do want to highlight just one more kind of technical detail. There's two opportunities for selecting these models. I should say three opportunities for selecting these models and training them. The image one we were just talking about, both for searching for the image and the image description itself, the concept, as we were saying. But the point is, you can adjust which one of these models work better and which one is for the embedding. That's when we go through your entire catalog and generate those embeddings for the smart search, but then also on the smart response. So you have the GenAI model that you can train, you have the concept model that you can train and host, and you have the image model that you can host. And based on what are your strengths, The strengths might be your descriptions, the strength might be the pictures or what have you. You can mix and match these to get the best experience possible.
Hey, John, when we say train, can you elaborate on that a bit for folks?
I know it's
more
so funny. Yeah, it reminds me of my kids when they were growing up, because you're basically saying stuff like, "Don't touch that; it's hot." You know, don't run with a knife. We have all these things, but it's similar. You'd be surprised. And I remember when we were kind of all first doing this, it's like, oh boy, I got to programmatically get in there and make some adjustments. Like, no, you're just essentially, it's a little more than this, but you're essentially just giving it phrases that would explain, like, when someone asks for this, they're actually asking for this. This could do well if you have a very particular type of industry and certain terms are used that might not be in the standard model. It's like teaching. Like, what would you tell someone who's like, I don't even know what that word means? It's like, oh, I'm going to tell you what it means. And now theoretically, you've been trained. So it's a relatively straightforward process. The hard part for us was being able to host it individually for each customer and all the configuration settings and everything else. But once you have that worked out, it's really powerful. And we have other customers that we haven't talked about today, one of which came to our last customer summit. And he said, I'm going to be hiring some prompt engineers that are just, over time, improving these prompts and, training these models and constantly innovating and improving the search experience.
Yeah, you hit on something. I just had that question yesterday. I was in a discussion with a customer, and you said individual, embedding models. So like an embedding model could be a large language model, right? And we end up discovering that in collaboration with the customer, there's a particular LLM that works best for them and who they are. If we host that for just that customer and we start training it, does all of that training and intelligence that we're building into that, does that stay with just that customer, or are we training our large language model that everybody uses?
Yeah, it does. So if you're using the default, then we're just using the out of the box embedding model, to your point. But if you want your own with trained, then you'd have your version of the original default with the training model, so to speak, next to it. And that's just, that would just be for you.
Okay. Yeah. And that's really important to some people. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Carl, I wasn't sure. Carl, I thought you were going to say something. So this is great. These are real world cases. This is a lot of fun to talk about this stuff. We are at time. I will say we've had a really fun survey going around what do you think AI can solve for your business. And so we can send this out to you. We'll probably, everybody here will probably send a follow-up email and we'll include this. But this is a lot of fun because we've gotten some amazing answers to this. So thank you, Carl, John. Thank you, Megan, for trying so hard. And sorry that didn't work, but we got some great information from Megan as well. And this has been great. And so if you've enjoyed this, look for more. We're going to have more in this series where, again, we're boots on the ground. We want to talk about real world situations where we're helping businesses with all this. So again, thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and see you next time.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.